HO Talk Show.
Yeah, buddy. I am HO Talk Show. You got Charles.
And you got Max.
Yes, indeed. And we back like we never left, Miss Max.
That's right. Good conversation. See, where else can you go to get conversation like this? Were you listening? I'm talking to our guest, our next guest. Where else can you go and get conversation like that, except, in my humble opinion,
That's
talk
right.
show?
I mean, like, do you expect anything less? Right.
I don't.
Right. There we go.
For real.
Like excuse us, Shawn. Sometimes you got to pat yourself on the
You
back.
have to. I was getting ready to lead off to say I appreciate what y'all do. Y'all
Yeah.
provide a perspective and just influence the community that's not being talked about. So thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for being a supporter, always sharing a good word. Because never underestimate how much it means just to get a little message in the inbox or get a text and being like, "Hey, I was listening. That was a good, good point y'all made," or whatever it is. Keeps us going to know somebody listening.
For sure. Makes a difference.
So Max, everybody like money, right?
That's right.
Last time I checked, unfortunately, gotta have it.
That's right. Sure do.
But hey, so that's why I'm just delighted right now to introduce to some and present to others none other than Shawn Pendleton, Senior Vice President of Investments over at Stifel. And so, man, Shawn, thank you for joining us this afternoon, man. Happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday to you as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Indeed. So, Shawn Pendleton being Senior Vice President of Stifel Investment Services, right? This is a company that's been in existence since 1890.
Yeah,
right?
Long time.
Let's just soak that in for a second, right? For real, because I bet that you give so many presentations and you talk to so many clients, who appreciate and benefit from the great work that you do. But but let's get to know Shawn a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when you hear, or when family members hear Senior Vice President of Stifel Financial, something that's been in existence for over a couple centuries, how does that make you feel?
No, it's a good, the main reason I'm with Stifel is because their main mantra is to treat clients' assets as if they were their own. It's just that straight, just high quality, high service, high ethical content that makes me lean towards and want to be a part of the Stifel team. So, but yeah, I was born and raised here, right in Charlottesville. Went to Albemarle High School, right. So I started my journey into finances is a wild one. God is good, right? Yeah. God is good. So I started my journey. I was around 16 years old. I'm gonna keep this short.
Take your time.
I was around 16 years old. I always had an entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
Right? So when I got my first, license, I come from humble means, right? And I had a lot of friends who were in the same boat as me, but then I had other friends who had quite a bit more than me. And I just had to figure out to myself, how do I get there? And it really clicked when I was 16 and I realized gas wasn't free. Not cheaper back then, right? Yeah. But, you still had to put in your tank. Thankfully, my mom was able to get me a vehicle, but, I had to afford that gas. And also at that time, everybody had to have a booming system. Get your 210s or 212s or something in your trunk. Yeah. So my first booming system was house speakers, so I just had
remember doing that.
Yes.
I mean, I thought I was just country as hell.
But you weren't the only one, right? You had to do something because if you had a little tinny sound, it just didn't work, right? So, my first foray into small business was actually trying to figure out ways to get money so I could have a real system. So I started installing car stereos for friends and family. Worked out well, and that kind of progressed. So the parents of the kids I used to install car stereos with asked me to do televisions. And, I didn't at the time, but guess what I said? I said, yeah, I sure do, right? So then that progressed into doing like TVs and the home theaters, and the business just started to take off to the point that when I was 19, my side hustle allowed me to purchase my first home. So I was a homeowner at 19 years old. And at the time, right, I didn't want to be the guy to blow my money. And so fast forward a little bit, I was still continuing my installation business in a local, large electronics company in Charlottesville. Y'all know who they are. I won't say names or anything, right? But I was in there often enough that they kind of recognized me and they started talking to me about joining their team. So after about a long conversation, they offered me a salary that allowed me to shut my business down and work for them. And at the time, one of the parents that I did a home theater with was a financial advisor, and he was with Stifel. And I was 21 years old at the time. And he kind of told me, stressed to me the importance of not blowing my money, right? And he, I listened. I opened up my first Roth IRA with him, started investing, and fast forward about 5 years in from that, he was like, every time we had a review, I would ask him questions that would kind of stump him. And he'd be like, man, you're doing your research, haven't you? And, then he was like, you know what? What do you think about joining the finance industry? Never thought about it at the time. But then, he said, you have the back end, you have people who trust you. If you go back to school, I'll vouch for you to sit in and take the exams, right? Because you have to have in order to be in finance, you have to have a broker vouch for you to do it. So, went back to school. I got past the test, thankfully, and lo and behold, he had a position ready for me. So fast forward 13 years later from that, senior vice president, handling clients in over 47 states.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a blessing.
Won't he do it, man?
That's right.
You just got to listen.
There's
right?
no traditional path.
No, none.
Yeah.
You just got to hear that. When you hear that voice, that calling, right? You got to do it. You got to trust it. You just got to trust it. You just got to say, okay, I hear you. I hear you. What do you want me to do? And you just do it.
Yeah.
Because it's scary making those jumps, but when you trust God, you're going to get there.
There you go. Look. So I did draw a nugget out of there though, like that you mentioned, but didn't dwell on it too long. Which is when you were 19, you bought your first house.
That was my first investment.
Your first investment. So it sounds to me then that even before you met the gentleman with Stiefel, something was already imparted in you that taught you some sort of responsibility, some sort of financial responsibility. Like you had a level of financial literacy. Like, do you feel like that was a gift, or were there people sort of like pouring into you and like sort of like, even if it was, mattress shoebox money, there still was some sort of structure and a responsibility behind your money. Like where did that come from, or was it, or did you just have a gift that kind of set you on this trajectory?
I credit my brother, really. Like I grew up in a single parent household, right? And my brother's about 10 years older than me, and he really took on the role of being the man of the house. Right. He kind of, when I was really young, he got a job, supporting at a local bank, and he had his little sport coat on and everything. And I said, you know what? I want to do that. But he's always been more the one I look up to as a mentor that's financially responsible. So when I first started getting my own money, I just didn't want to be the guy. So I was a saver, so I would have the savings account, but I also be the guy to blow it. I like cars, right? So that's,
I'm thinking 19, man. Like
I should have
been going on dates and trips.
Yeah, the 19-year-old is no different than the now 47-year-old me. But man, somebody had a birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate that. But so my mindset had to kind of get shifted, and that nugget, I had the savers mentality, but I just didn't know really about investing. I bought the house because I just didn't want to pay somebody else's mortgage. I just didn't want to rent, right? So that led me to, purchasing the house, but I didn't really have an idea. I didn't know what IRA was. I didn't know what an investment was. So if it wasn't for somebody's outside influence that encouraged me to actually invest, I don't know what path I would have taken. So it's just nice having, and that's what I want to, kind of flip on, right? Because, Forbes ran a study that, basically financial literacy is disproportionately affected of the community that is underserved from not having that information ahead of time. So it leads to poor decision-making, poor choices, and just lack of long-term growth, because the financial literacy was never taught. And a lot of communities that are not underserved, they usually have the, early financial literacy classes, or now schools today like my son just was in high school. He had financial literacy class. That wasn't a thing when I was in high school, right? So what I want to do is just teach, like you said the word nugget. I like that word, because I want to give nuggets to people in our community who can then pass that on to they want to, let them be the expert in their community. And then once they get to a level where they feel like, they reaching a barrier, then just come back to me and I can give them more, because I don't want to hit them with too much information at once. Right. You just want to get enough to keep passing it on. But that study opened my eyes and really pushed me to come out and just teach financial literacy, because it not only does it strengthen yourself, but it strengthens your community as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also feeds into the narrative of like, where do I start? Or like, I don't have enough to start. But if I'm hearing you correctly, no matter how much you're starting with, you should be starting.
Oh yeah.
Like, so sort of the game plan is the same, like whether you're starting with 100 or you're starting with 1,000,000.
Absolutely.
Right. Like the structure is sort of the same, right? Like, so what would you tell that person listening, like, that's like, I realize that I have to save more. I realize that I, have to do better, like money management, but I don't think that now is the time, got too many bills, kids asking for too many things. Like, so how am I gonna like manage this money when as soon as I get it, it's going out?
It's tough. And especially right now with inflation still creeping up high. It feels like everything around us is getting more expensive. So it's a lot of compounding pressure. So you just got to realize it doesn't take a lot to get going. It's not about timing the market, because as long as we think about it and we mull things over, right, we waste time. Like, I can make a lot of money, but if you can make a time machine for me, I'm gonna give that all to you, right? You just can't get back time. So even starting small, right, just as small as you can, and just over time being consistent and letting time be your friend and not timing, you can build a substantial nest egg. You just got to be consistent with it. And a lot of times when it comes to financial literacy, it teaches you to pay yourself first, right? Take care of your immediate needs. And your immediate needs is your future. So putting away and allocating a spot towards your financial future is just important as making sure you get your groceries, make sure you got your rent, because you paying the future you. Like, don't take away from today's you, right? There's going to be a future you who's going to need those funds, and they need to compound. So start small and be consistent, and then use the allocation after you pay yourself to have your fun with, if that's available. It's expensive right now, but carve out something to take care of you in the long run.
Can you put a dollar amount on this? What is starting small? Because I know some folks are wondering.
I mean, you can start as low as $10, $20. It doesn't really matter, because
I can guarantee that most people didn't think that number could be that low.
It can be, because if you're consistent with it and you put in things that can compound on itself, you'd be surprised over time how it can grow. And also, it's a little, I like to say this, it's not about how much you make, but it's how much you get to keep. Right. Okay. So if you're being more financially stable and reduce your debt, once you get closer to retirement, you're not going to need as much income, because you're not servicing the debt as much.
Right.
And that's another reason. Like I say, paying off debt is similar to making an investment, because you're paying off high interest rate. If you're sitting on a high interest rate credit card, right, and then you're investing, and your investments are making 7-8% potentially, but your credit card debt's 19%. Guess which one's going to win out?
Right.
Your credit card debt. So attacking that early, and we're going to talk about all of that. That's what I'm so excited about, November 18th, and just, it's called the Basics of Investing. And it's going to be just one part of a series I call Next Gen Investor. But this one coming up is called the Basics of Investing. And we're going to tackle all of that.
Yeah. Awesome. And since you brought it up, though, go ahead and hit that, to let folks know, like where you'll be and all that good stuff about the event.
So November 18th, Royalty Eats, come. It's going to be a relaxed setting, really chill. I'm providing food for everybody. So just come with a lot of questions, right? We're going to get deep into it. I'm going to take my time. I got slides, but I'm not going to sit here and just talk to you. And there's no products. I'm not selling anything. I'm really just out here trying to teach knowledge and give information. So just come with your questions, and I got your answers for you. And if it's anything super specific, we can also talk on the side, because investing is very specific to the person's risk tolerance. A lot of times it kind of obsesses me when I hear people giving broad-based information, and you can actually affect someone financially by giving broad information to the public that not everybody can understand, and they may make wrong decisions. So you got to really listen and get more detail to kind of give an approach that's specific to somebody's needs.
Would this potentially be a good space for teenagers?
Absolutely. Okay. The Next Gen Investor series is actually catered to like kids fresh out of high school, young adults out of college. But I think for a lot of us don't have that financial literacy, right? So there's nuggets in there for everybody. In my, this series won't get into it, but there's things about wills and trusts, right? There's things about receiving an inheritance. taking care of your parents as they age. All of that's part of the investor series, philanthropy, all of that.
Okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We are talking to Shawn Pendleton, and of Stifel Financial, Stifel. I would say Stifel, Stifel Financial, and he is a senior VP there. And Max, if I heard him correctly, he said he's gonna talk about how you make money, and he gonna feed you.
I heard
you
it.
can't go wrong, Max. If you gonna tell me how I'm gonna make money, and you fill in my belly, come on,
right?
You gotta show up.
Right.
Yeah. So the importance of this work, Shawn, as well, because I'm sure there's somebody that's still listening that, that again, maybe feeling some of the financial strains and stresses, right? And they may be saying, well, if I'm just taking care of my immediate needs, everybody's happy for the time being.
Yep.
And I can't really look far past that. But why is investing? Why is, good money management, savings, like whether it's $10 or more, like why is it important, especially in this economy that we're in now?
Yes. Yeah. And that is the main reason, because it's so important to take care of the day. So make sure at first we attack the debt and make sure we can get our financial house in order. But because the cost of everything around us is getting more expensive, if we just deal with today's dollars, it's something called purchasing power, right? So $1 today, 10 years from now is probably going to be worth 85 cents, because every year you have inflation going up. So if we just keep money in savings account or just rely on simple interest for a long-term need, because savings, money markets, and CDs, they're great for short-term, right? And I think short-term goals, that's what you should have, because you can at least keep up with inflation a little bit. But once you get past, a year or so, then you think about longer term and taking care of things that can beat inflation. You want to have money that's going to be worth more in 10 years, not less. So having your 3 months of savings to 6 months in savings is great. But anything beyond your immediate emergencies and needs, you've got to think about the future, because I don't think things are going to get cheaper as the future goes. They're just going to get more expensive. And that's the main reason. And the reason you invest as well is you got to have a purpose. What's the use of investing if you don't have a purpose for doing it? We're going to talk about that a lot on the 18th as well, because you got to have a reason to invest to even do it. Because why do it? You got to put a emphasis, whether you're going to make a down payment on your house, whether you got a kid you want to cover undergrad, or maybe just the first semester, maybe it's a wedding. You just got to have reasons to invest. And that way you can build that discipline you need to stay on track to get to that goal.
And I heard a lot of what you're saying too. Like some folks equate that to their job or like to their employment. But, is that something that somebody like necessarily need? Like, do you need to have the benefits, like the benefit structure?
Yeah.
Like through your employer, or is this something where you can just go to a financial advisor and get your stuff?
That's a great question. Yeah. So my job really as a fiduciary is to listen first, right? And then I make a determination of what best suits. For most people, your job is going to be your best first place if they offer it. Not every job offers retirement plans, but if they do, that's your first best place to start investing, because you can take advantage of what's called a matching provision. A lot of employers allow you to invest in their plan, and up to a certain percentage of what you invest, they match it. So you automatically get a 100% return on your investment before your investments even touch the market. So that's where you want to start. If your job doesn't offer a retirement plan, then you can open up your own, what's called IRA. And there's two different ones. We're going to talk about this as well. There's traditional and Roth. It's a lot to it. We can get into that now, but I don't know how much time I got. But
you can't go too deep right now. Yeah.
Right. But yeah,
good stuff. You look like you're thinking over there, man. What you thinking?
I'm listening, actually. Listen, which I hope is what people tuning into the show is doing right now, is absorbing the information.
No,
and go out to that event, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, November 18th over at Royalty Eats, and thanks to Keisha White as well for opening up her space. To the community, to the good people. Yeah. So yeah, man. Like that's definitely number one for people to to get that personalized help and come out and meet the man behind the microphone that's here, right about now. But as far as what you're seeing out there right now, are there any like misconceptions that you want to take this time to warn people of, because we're also living in a time right now too to where I'm sure some people are questioning our economy.
Yes.
Some people are saying, is this dollar going to be worth anything over this next, 3-4 years?
There's so much going on right now that if you're not scared, what's wrong? Right?
Yeah,
There's just so many. So if we take a daily lens on this, right? If we just look at this from today's standpoint, why on earth would we be investing? Right. But then if we broaden our horizon out, right, we step back a little bit and we realize that, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Situations like this happen, right? And if we were to not invest through the dark days, then when the bright times come, we miss out. So as long as we just stay consistent, right, and we know that brighter days will come, you're going to realize the potential of that, right? We've been through so many massive, devastating events. And the part that repeats itself over and over is that we overcome them, and we will. We will overcome situations, and we'll continue. Investing is not a new thing. Over 100 years has been doing it, so we have enough history to look and see every event that's happened in history and all the responses that happen after it. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. But it's it is, if you're nervous, it's rightfully so.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, indeed. Yes, man. Well, thank you for your time today, man. Because there's so many directions that we could take it. We could be here all day talking, but I feel like it's a good introduction, to the folks. But as far as again, like the services that you offer, and if people want to learn more about them, like where do they go? How do they get in touch? To figure out if this is a good fit.
Yeah, so I'll get information. I'm sure you can post something about it. But from what I do as a standpoint, I'm pretty much a listener first. So basically, my door is wide open to everyone. Just come talk to me, and then I can kind of help, get a better understanding of how investments work. And then from there, I can figure out if my services are beneficial to you, right? Because I do everything from stocks to bonds to mutual funds to hedge funds to index funds, you name it. I'm investment agnostic. So we do financial planning. I have estate planning attorneys on staff. I have CPAs on staff. We do tax planning. So we have a pretty broad-based team. So we have a lot that can support, but mainly it's just to kind of listen first, understand what your situation is. Because another thing I guess I didn't bring up is risk tolerance. And that's another thing that's super important, because not everybody's understanding of the market's the same, and not everybody's stomach's the same. It's what's called hedonic adaptation. What that means is that we feel the joy of gain less than we feel the pain of loss. So when we get something, it feels good. We feel good for the moment, but it kind of, the memory goes away and we try to reach that next gain. But if you take something from us and we lose something, it hurts bad. So that pain of loss is much worse. So my job is to kind of help people invest in a way that meets their risk tolerance. So that way you may not get a long-term return as, high as someone who's willing to take a lot of risk, but the main goal is to stay invested, right? Not get out when times get rough. That means you're running the wrong investment to begin with. So
one of the things I want to point out is that you've made talking about finances very comfortable, right? And for a lot of us, that's a difficult conversation, especially when you're going into an environment with someone who may not be able to relate to you, your circumstances, maybe even look like you. So it becomes a very tense, an abrasive type conversation, but you've made it very comfortable to talk about. And so I just want to take the opportunity to encourage the people who are listening to us, and you can tell a friend to go to this event, get connected, because putting it quite bluntly, no one's coming to save you, right? You have to do what you need to do for yourself. So please support this.
Spot on. And what both of y'all bring to mind too is the entrepreneur, right, that we have in town. I'm sure we have entrepreneurs listening, and they hear a lot of structure, which is great, right? To have things solidified and have organization. But I'm sure there's a lot of folks who may have different, odd jobs, or maybe in business for themselves, and maybe but man, I'm probably gonna need a whole bunch of paperwork and a whole bunch of documentation, for them to even work with me. So how important is that piece? Is it the same rules for the self-owned businessman, entrepreneur, as it is for someone who may work a 9 to 5 in a corporation?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, basically, if you are a business owner, chances are you're a 1099. You get your taxes, pay your taxes, you're 1099. If you're an employee, you're W-2. Those both things are called earned income, right? So it's taxable, reportable income. And as long as you have taxable, reportable income, you can invest, right? So even if you don't, if you have cash, it makes it a little bit more challenging because the type of investments that you can get into that are more tax deferred require substantiated earned income. But so yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee, how you do work with me is the same, right? Because I can do simple IRAs, 401ks for the self-employed, and I can do IRAs for those who are W-2. So really it's just listening, figuring out where your income's coming from, what your needs are, and then figuring out the vehicle that's best suited for that purpose. And I like how you said comfort, because that's my style is more of a teaching style, right? So I want you to know more leaving my office than you did when you first came in. So once you do that, because you fear the unknown. So if you can get a comfort level with investments, you're not going to fear it as much. You're going to realize the whole tax code is designed for investing, and you can take advantage of a lot of the benefits that that'll provide. But I just want to alleviate, or at least reduce, right? You're not going to alleviate, but reduce the fear that comes from investing. One of the questions, I guess one of the statements I get a lot when I have my first interviews is, I don't want to lose any money, right? And that comes from a point of like, you don't really, have a true understanding. So when I try to overcome that by knowledge, it really helps understand how investing really works and to talk about the value that comes from investing. So, yeah.
Something else you said that made me think to ask, what about credit? Is good credit a prerequisite?
Absolutely. Well, no. Good credit. We work on improving credit, but no. But if poor credit led to maybe not understanding financial literacy and making some poor decisions that may have had you have more debt, maybe our first homework is to work on the debt, right? So but no, you don't have to worry about what your credit report is. You don't have to worry about what your income level is. I'm here to listen first, and then from there I'm here to offer the guidance into what makes best sense for you. I may not make the most sense, right? I may not have a service available, but at least I'm going to give you the tools and guidance so that when you leave my office, you actually got good information you can take along with you.
Gotcha. Good stuff. None other than Mr. Shawn Pendleton, Max.
Yeah.
Kicking the actual factuals.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been really a wealth, no pun intended, but of information. But it really is. And people need to hear this. And you giving it away for free, right? This is what community is about. This is how we build each other. So thank you. And don't be a stranger. Come back.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'll be back.